In a world obsessed with success, no one talks about failure. But what if failure isn't the enemy? What if failure is the teacher? Before the fame, before the awards, before the world knew his name, there was just a man, standing alone in the dark, fighting for a dream no one else could see. His name is Denzel Washington. He fell, he struggled, he was rejected again and again. But each time he fell, he learned to fall forward. Because failure didn't break him, it built him. This is not the story of a celebrity. It's the story of a fighter, a believer, a man who turned every no into destiny and every setback into a step forward. This is the journey of Denzel Washington and the timeless truth he lived by. Fail big, dream big, but most of all, fail forward. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more powerful stories. Before the spotlight ever touched his face, before the world called him a legend, there was a young man, lost, unsure, and almost invisible. His name was Denzel Hayes Washington Jr. Born in Mount Vernon, New York, Denzel didn't grow up dreaming of Hollywood. He didn't imagine red carpets or golden awards. He was just another kid from the Bronx, struggling to find his purpose in a world that never promised him anything. In high school, he was average, not the best student, not the worst. His teachers didn't see a future actor. His friends didn't see a future icon. But destiny has a strange way of whispering, only to those who are ready to listen. One day, his mother, a beauty salon owner, looked at him and said, "You're either going to end up on the streets or in front of millions." That line became prophecy. But before the millions came the failures. His first auditions? Rejected. His first performances? Forgotten. His first dreams? Broken. He once said, "I prayed for guidance, but what I got was silence." Silence. That sacred moment where the universe waits to see if you will give up or rise. The years that followed were brutal. Every audition was a test of patience. Every no felt heavier than the last. But Denzel Washington wasn't fighting for fame. He was fighting for faith. He once said, "To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did." He worked small jobs, at a post office, at a barber shop, anything to survive. But every night, when the world slept, he practiced. He spoke lines to the mirror, not to be famous, but to believe. He failed auditions at the American Conservatory Theater. He was told his accent was too rough, his style too raw. He was told to try something else. But deep inside, a voice whispered, "Keep going." And he kept going. Until one day, he auditioned for a small role in a play called Wings of the Morning. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't big, but it was real. That night, something changed. When the curtain rose and his voice filled the stage, the crowd went silent. For the first time, he felt seen. The applause was small, but for Denzel, it sounded like thunder. Because it wasn't about fame anymore. It was about becoming the man he was meant to be. Every story of greatness has a moment when the world finally listens. For Denzel Washington, that moment began not in Hollywood, but on a small television set in 1982. The show was called Saint Elsewhere. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't global. But for the first time, millions of eyes watched a man who had spent years being ignored. He played Dr. Philip Chandler, a young, ambitious doctor struggling to prove himself in a system that doubted him. The irony? It was the same struggle Denzel had faced in real life. Through the screen, people didn't just see a character. They saw truth, pain, determination, humanity. That's when the world started to whisper his name. Who is this man? His performance caught attention. Directors, critics, even other actors. For the first time, doors began to open. But Denzel didn't rush through them. He walked with purpose. He once said, "Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship." So he chose the hard roles, the complex ones, the ones that scared others. He played soldiers, rebels, flawed men, because he believed truth lives in imperfection. The boy who once prayed for guidance had found his path. The man who once faced silence now had the world listening. But fame is a test of its own, and for Denzel Washington, the higher he rose, the more the world wanted to see him fall. Fame is a strange fire. It can warm you, or it can burn everything you've built. For Denzel Washington, fame was never the goal. It was the test. He had made it. Awards, headlines, respect. But behind the cameras, there was something he feared more than failure: losing himself. He once said, "You'll never see a U-Haul behind a hearse," meaning you can't take success with you when you die. So what matters is what you leave behind. That became his compass. While others chased attention, Denzel chased meaning. He turned down roles that didn't align with his values. He refused to sell his soul for fame. He balanced Hollywood with faith, family, and purpose. Every Sunday, he returned to church, not to be seen, but to stay grounded. He taught his children, fall down 7 times, get up 8. And when people asked him the secret to success, he answered simply, put God first. The man who once stood in silence now spoke with purpose. His message wasn't about winning, it was about becoming. Because in his eyes, success isn't what you gain, it's what you give. But even the strongest souls are tested by time. And Denzel's next test would challenge everything he believed. Every man who climbs the mountain of success must one day face the silence at its peak. For Denzel Washington, that silence came not in failure, but in greatness. He had everything the world celebrates: fame, wealth, legacy. Yet late at night, he asked himself one question: am I still walking the path I was meant to? It's easy to believe success means peace, but often it means isolation. Because when the applause fades, all that remains is you and your truth. He once said, "Don't confuse movement with progress, because you can run in place and get nowhere." So, he slowed down. He began speaking less about movies and more about life, about service, faith, discipline, gratitude. He told the next generation, dreams without goals are just dreams, and goals without consistency are empty. To him, failing big was not about losing. It was about living with courage, about daring to fall and rise with purpose. As the years passed, his message grew louder, not in volume, but in truth. He became more than an actor. He became a teacher, a mirror of what it means to fight, to fall, and to believe again. In a world obsessed with winning, he chose a different path, to remind us that real strength is not how high you climb, but how deeply you stand in what you believe. Because Denzel Washington didn't just play heroes, he became one. Every great story comes to an end, but its legacy lasts forever. Denzel Washington didn't just become a movie star. He didn't just become a successful actor. He became a symbol of strength born from failure, patience, and faith. He taught us that failure is not the end, that falling is not weakness, but a classroom. And true success is not measured by awards or fame, but by what you leave behind. Every role he played, every line he spoke, every scene he embodied was a message to the world. Rise and leave a mark. Never let failure stop you. Denzel never forgot his beginnings. He never forgot his rejections, his disappointments, or the silence he faced. That's why he remained honest, humble, and human. And so, the man who once walked alone in the darkness became a mentor, a role model, and an inspiration for everyone chasing their dreams. Remember this: failure is not your end. It is the beginning of your journey to greatness.